70% of the world's cocoa beans come from West Africa, and yet the region only gets a fraction of the total value of the industry. The IDH plans to change this through a number of initiatives aimed at giving, especially small-scale farmers, access to markets and helping them make profit. Its director in Ivory Coast, Carole Attoungbre, joins me live from Utrecht in the Netherlands to tell us more about their interventions. Carole, appreciate your time. Now, talk to us about the cocoa and chocolate market projected to grow significantly. How does IDH Côte d'Ivoire plan to ensure that West Africa, as a major cocoa producer, captures a larger share of this market value?
Thank you very much, Ugo. So first of all, it's very important to say that IDH is a global organization working with various partners to transform the market for the benefit of the people, the planet, and progress. We do this by leveraging partnerships with various stakeholders committed from all over the world. As we just said, the cocoa sector is a very tricky one, right? Because Côte d'Ivoire, for example, is producing around 40% of the world supply of cocoa beans, and the market is estimated to be around $100 billion, but still the farmers receive only between 5 and 6% of the overall value of the market. So there is a real poverty issue that lies under the cocoa and chocolate industry. But in addition to this poverty issue, right, there is also the issue of deforestation, because the chocolate and cocoa industry has been attributed to have contributed for around 80% of deforestation rate in the country over the last 50 years. So those are key sustainability issues that are threatening the sector, but also the overall sustainability of the economic development of the country. So there we work with the partners into addressing these sustainability issues by a threefold approach. First of all, we work on the governance of the sector, partnering with the government, the private sector, but also with the civil society. For example, we facilitate an initiative like the Cocoa Press Initiative that aims to halve deforestation in the cocoa sector by bringing together the private, the public sector, but also the civil society. We also work at the business level practices and the field level intervention directly with the cocoa and chocolate industry partners, where we co-found initiatives that aims at piloting innovating business approaches into addressing these issues that I just mentioned. So basically in Côte d'Ivoire, we're really trying to support the government and the private sector into making the cocoa and chocolate industry more sustainable for the future of the nation.
Now, sustainability is a big thing that you're looking to do, Carole. Now, what are the actionable plans that the IDH Côte d'Ivoire aims to implement to address critical issues? I mean, we talk about deforestation, working conditions, wages, and climate change, for instance.
So, yeah, that is a great question, and thank you for that. And actually, as I said, right, we tend to think that partnerships are at the core of everything that we do. So first of all, we're trying to improve the policy of the sector. So we work directly with public and private partnerships, but also we support the government. We work directly in Côte d'Ivoire, for example, with the Ministry of Waters and Forests, supporting them into implementing the strategy for forest protection. We also co-found some projects to protect some specific areas like the Cavalli classified forest that we've been really supporting over the years. We also work directly with an initiative like the Côte d'Ivoire-Ghana one that brings together both the Ivorian government but also the Ghana government into addressing the deforestation issue of both countries. So this is what we do like more at the policy and governance level. But in addition to that, we also partner with the private sector companies where we will implement the direct activities and projects on the ground, with the aim of piloting some of the new ideas that we have and make them sustainable over time. For example, we have a specific program that will be addressing the living income situation of the farmers. I just said now, around 50% of the cocoa farmers are estimated to be living below the poverty rate in Côte d'Ivoire. So we will team up with the private sector, that means the cocoa and the chocolate companies, but also financial institutions and different other partners into promoting access to finance to the farmers and supporting them into strengthening their businesses so that they can earn a living income out of what they do. And in addition to that, then we also work directly on business practices. we support some of the companies, not only at the field level, but also more globally here from Utrecht and from the European, what we call the consumer market, into adopting business practices that is going to support the overall purpose of sustainability of the market.
Now, there have obviously been several imbalances, and one of those imbalances, what you mentioned initially, is that a huge amount of the global production of cocoa happens on the African continent, but the African continent receives very little in the way of beneficiation. Now, amongst those areas of inequality, I'd imagine, is gender equality. Now, as a woman, and obviously as IDH, what are your plans to promote gender equality within the cocoa sector and obviously ensure the inclusion of women in various aspects?
Yeah. So, that is very right, and you're right to point it out. And gender equality is at the core of everything we do, right? So, for example, if I take the field level intervention that I just mentioned, we will make sure that everything that we do is promoting the gender balance and it's also supporting women's rights. One of the key issues of the cocoa sector is the fact that there is little representation of women, and most of the time they will be only doing some of the work that are attributed to having the less value. So when we work with the cooperatives or the farmers directly, we will make sure that we put an emphasis to access to services and also finances for women. For example, one of the interventions that we have on the ground will be targeted not only the cocoa farmers themselves, but also their wives and how they can access other means of revenue so that they can support the households, right? So the way we address this kind of livelihoods and living income situation of the cocoa farmers is more from an household approach, where we don't only address the farmer situation, but we also work with the wives. And sometimes some of the farmers will be the women themselves. In that case, we will also be working with the family, ensuring that they don't only get a living income out of the cocoa production, but they also have access to other means of resources so they're able to sustain and take care of their families.
So let's talk about your markets. Obviously, there's been some pushback, I'd like to imagine, from the West. But the African Free Continental Trade Area offers you 1.2 billion consumers, the second most populous continent on the planet. What are the arrangements that you're putting in place for trade on the African continent for cocoa products?
So for cocoa products, first of all, it is good to notice that the main market of cocoa, which is the chocolate industry, still is in the European continent. We need to acknowledge that, right? Most of the chocolate consumers are still in Europe. So this is going to still be a key market for Africa. But there is a lot of work that is happening into creating also a local market. For example, there is a recent African standard that just emerged from the government and the regulation bodies to ensure that we're able to create a kind of local standards to be able to export our cocoa to other countries in Africa and make sure that we meet our own kind of standards into trading cocoa. But obviously more locally in Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana and Cameroon and Nigeria and other cocoa producing countries, there is a trend into creating more local transformation capabilities so that we can retain most of the value of the cocoa beans that are produced in the countries. So basically, in addition of creating the local market, there is also this idea of creating the industrialization that will allow for transforming locally some of the products so that even if we still need to export them, we do it by retaining most of the value locally.
So let's talk a little bit about government support. Now, you're in Utrecht in the Netherlands at the moment. And the Dutch government is playing a significant role in supporting IDH Côte d'Ivoire. How does this partnership contribute to the organization's goals?
Yeah, so basically it is good to notice that even though IDH is today an international organization, it was founded at the beginning by the Dutch government with other private sector and civil society partners. If we take the situation of Côte d'Ivoire with the cocoa sector, the Netherlands is one of our main trading partners, right? It is estimated that 70% or even more of the cocoa production in Côte d'Ivoire will transit through the port of Amsterdam. So it was very important for the Dutch government to ensure that the cocoa would be sustainable in the future. And as you just mentioned yourself, not only with the funding, but also with the partnership that we have locally in Côte d'Ivoire and in other countries, the Dutch government is supporting us into really achieving our mission, which is to make the cocoa sector but other value chains more sustainable. So it will be through the funding, as we just mentioned, but also through other kind of partnerships and a close relationships in order to achieve this goal. So today, IDH is really like one of the very specific organization with public funding, not only today from the Dutch government. We will also have some funding from the Swiss government, from the Danish one, or the Belgian one, or other countries, in order to ensure that some of the value chains that are really core to the economic development or the businesses are also more sustainable in the future. But beyond the funding and the financing, there is also the partnership. How they support and work with us locally to make this happen. And for example, just next week, we're going to have a big event for the launch of IDH locally in Côte d'Ivoire at the Dutch Pavilion at the SARA conference, which is one of the main agricultural fair in West Africa. So again, to show that we're keeping these ties locally in more like beyond the financial, also more diplomatic and strengthen relationship to make this open.
Carole, appreciate your time. Thank you so much for speaking to us on Africa Today. Carole Attoungbre, she's the director of IDH Côte d'Ivoire.